You're listening to the Fantasy Football Podcast with Charles Barr and John Chapman.
Here we go. Finally, the time has come. Fantasy football season is for real.
It's awesome right now. Like, today, we're recording this Tuesday night. You'll probably be listening to it Wednesday morning on the way to work.
Or never.
Or never. Yeah, you might. To be honest with you, more people will not listen to this than will listen to it. That's just scientifically proven. But that's okay.
That's math.
Man, we're a day away from football if you're listening to this Wednesday morning. That is just happiness. Happiness. So happy.
Yeah, so like now basically everybody has completed their drafts and you're looking at your roster and you're roster baiting as everybody does. I roster bait.
It's been bad for me. There's a couple teams that I've got that I am just 100%, yes, I dominated.
That's awesome. And I feel the same way. And I just got to say before we jump into news, I actually got to credit like just doing this podcast in general that I feel so prepared and I probably will end up in last place. But I just feel really good now. That's what counts.
Hey, I've looked at a couple of your teams, man. I must say, Grasshopper has become a larger locust.
A larger mammal. It's a mammal.
It's not a mammal. No, it's not. It's not.
All right, so week one news. Let's start with the first thing. And I hope you had your Lucky Charms because there's a little leprechaun who's not going to be around for 6 weeks or so.
That is correct. It just came out literally 20 minutes before we recorded this. That's how up to date we are. We are constantly on the waiver wire, just paying attention to all the news. So the ruling came out, and they are going to uphold the 6-game suspension. At least that's where it's at now. What do you think about this, Chuck?
Okay, so everybody knows I'm an Eagles fan. Who knows me? Who doesn't know me? You don't know that. But I'm going to say that it kind of really baffles me, man. I cannot believe it. And just given on the evidence that they have, given that the arbitrator, even though that's not the term for it, but the person came out and made the recommendation for there not to be a suspension and then said that there were holes in the investigation, I'm at a loss for words for why this guy is suspended 6 weeks or at all. And then, too, why not even a reduction? And lastly, and I'll have you address this last point, too, but why in God's green earth the NFL has chosen to be so aggressive? I really feel like this is going to come back to bite them in the end when it comes back to negotiations in a few years.
So here's the deal. A couple things. Like, this is awesome. I predicted this yesterday to a buddy, and I immediately texted him. I was like, man, I should have put that out there on Twitter. And here's why. Ezekiel Elliott thought that he was the victim in this situation and still does, which baffles me. And he went in and he gave his own deposition, which is all public record now, and I've gone through and read the entire thing. And he admitted to some pretty crazy stuff. And if you go through and read that, he sounds awful. And the whole time I'm reading this, I'm just like, why the hell did he agree to do this? The arbitrator asks him, have you choked her before? And his answer is, well, she would ask me to do stuff like that. Well, have you choked her in the month that this incident happened? And Zeke says, again, I'm just going off the top of my head here. I don't have the document right in front of me, but he basically says, possibly. Like, he sounds awful. Did you do drugs with her? Oh, I like to party. Did you do drugs with her? I like to party in college. That's all I'll say. Like,
sorry, man. That's not enough for me. Yeah. I like to party, too.
But did you choke her in this month? Possibly.
If she's into that, I don't know what he's talking about. I'm sorry, dude. It's not enough for me, and it's just it kind of ticks me off because I think it's going to really put the NFL in a bad place when it comes to negotiation, and it makes me fear losing a lockout year because I really feel like the players are going to want protection moving forward. That not every time that somebody comes along and makes an accusation that somebody loses out, and in his case, he's losing endorsements, sponsorships, and salary.
Yeah, and I have no problem with that. You lay your hands on a woman, it's 3 separate occasions. And again, if he didn't want to be in that or whatever, you need to get out of that relationship, and that's toxic. I definitely do not feel like Zeke is a victim here. Now, I'm not saying everything that this chick said happened or didn't happen, but I'm not a person that will ever side with Zeke. He's not a victim in this situation. I just don't believe that's the case. I really don't.
Well, okay. It's fine.
It's fine. But let's talk about the football implications of this, because this is huge.
Yeah.
He gets to play week 1.
He gets to play week 1.
So he gets to play week 1, but here's the problem. Guess who the week 1 opponent is?
The Giants.
The Giants. Guess who his 2 worst games of the entire year were against last year?
G-unit.
Again, the Giants. Like, this was the worst case scenario for Zeke.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, my dad is a Cowboys fan. My brother has Zeke on the roster. And so, obviously, all this stuff definitely plays into, my favor where I'm like, ha, ha, ha. But at the same time, too, I don't feel quite good about how it all unfolded. And some chicks like to be choked.
That should be the title of our this some chicks like to be choked, man.
That's the name of my fantasy football team.
But here's the deal. So I have Zeke in my weekly rankings for week 1 at RB12. Last year he put up 12 points and 10 points in his 2 separate games versus the Giants. I think that he can do better, but I am not going to rely on him. Now, obviously, if you drafted him, you have to start him. You've got to put him in there this week. But just understand, basically, Darren McFadden is a no-go this week. You don't want to start him at all. He's unrankable. But he's going to be a guy. This is great for Darren McFadden. This is best-case scenario because this first matchup was going to be the toughest, and it's going to get easier from here on out. So definitely start Zeke. Now, one of my favorite things is they asked Ben McAdoo, the Giants head coach, how are you preparing for the different running backs? And his response was great. All running backs run the same when there is nowhere to run.
Oh, God.
The confidence in that defense, it's the best defense in the NFL. So I think it's going to be awesome.
Top to bottom, absolutely. I will say this for the Cowboys, and again, I'm a Cowboys hater. They're going to come out playing with some passion and some desperation that you only see in the later weeks. Mark my words. All right, moving on. Dolphins, Bucs rescheduled, maybe?
Oh, my gosh. This is total chaos. So Hurricane Irma's coming through. The bad news is terrible, so they've already said we're not going to have it at its original time. Now, there's 2 options that are on board right now. The best case scenario is the hurricane does not hit like they think it is going to hit, and they will reschedule that game for Monday night this week, which would be awesome. That would give us 3 Monday night games. Hell yeah, all about it. I'm totally cool with that.
That'd be cool.
That would be really, really cool, and they get to play this week. The second option, and this is awful, but it seems to be what the NFL is favoring right now, is to reschedule the game. Now, luckily, the Dolphins and Bucs, their bye week is week 11. They share the same bye week, and they will just move this game all the way to week 11, which means they would play 16 weeks straight. That's unreal.
Yeah, it's unfair. I hope that they end up playing Monday for my selfish purposes because I have Mike Evans.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They need to reschedule it in a local, like a neutral place, cheap tickets, and just let people come watch it. The problem is the Bucs have already sacrificed a home game. Or, sorry, not the Bucs. The Dolphins have already sacrificed a home game because they're playing in London. So if they reschedule this and it's not in the Dolphins, they will only have 6 home games instead of 8. And so you are talking about cutting a quarter of your profits as an organization if they do that.
Boy, can you imagine the kind of turmoil that's putting between the coaches and the front office about profits versus the health of our team?
And that's not even a conversation that happened. I guarantee you the owner of the Dolphins has said, and this is why it hasn't been rescheduled up to this point, is, hey, we can do this in week 11 or we can go to a neutral site. And the reason why they gave the Dolphins the choice, I'm 100% positive. And the Dolphins said, hell no, I'm not giving up, basically $200 million so that we can do this. Right. And the Bucs basically have no say-so because they're the road team. But we'll see what happens. Hopefully the storm misses. But you have to get every single person that is in the Dolphins or in the Bucs out of your lineups right now. Because, and here's why. Let's say the person that you would put in for Jay Ajayi plays Thursday night. You're screwed.
Right.
So you have to get your backups in now. The decision might not be made till after Thursday nights, and you cannot risk having 0 points for a starting position. So go into your lineups right now and make those adjustments. All Bucs, all Dolphins, Mike Evans, Jacquizz Rodgers, Jay Ajayi, Jarvis Landry. If you're starting Jay Cutler, you suck. Get him out of there.
Word to Big Bird. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get Mike Evans out of my lineup, and I'm going to substitute him for Martavius Bryant. And speaking of Martavius Bryant and the Steelers, we got Le'Veon Bell back in business.
The Pothead brothers are back. That's what I'm talking about. And
I'm a fan.
Hey, they're both awesome. I really enjoy them. Le'Veon Bell is one of the most entertaining human beings alive. Not talking about his rap career. The fact that the guy went out and applied for freaking Dairy Queen the day before he came back to the NFL was just amazing. Absolutely great. So he came back and he said, and I quote, and I have to put quote marks because this is one of the worst statements ever, "I'm ready for a full load." I hope I never say that in my life, but he said it with pride. And he is going to get a lot of carries, or as he would say, a very large load is waiting for you, Le'Veon. So there you go.
Oh, man. Let there be some NFL signs in the crowd, please. It's like, "I'm ready for your full load," or "Are you ready for my full load?" Please, please.
It's an exact quote, so I feel like we're okay with that.
Awesome. All right, so a guy who's definitely implicated in some of our bets that we'll talk about later. Somebody's back, and he's not on the pup, Andrew Luck.
Oh, man, dude, this is awesome. We've talked about this with our bets, and we'll go over this in the future. I'm a huge Andrew Luck guy. I have him in 3 leagues. I am so happy to have him. I'm trying to trade for him in 5 leagues. He is a top 3 quarterback when he's in the league, when he's healthy. Now, he's not healthy. And they also had another trade. They traded their former first-round pick, Phillip Dorsett out of Miami, to New England for Jacoby Brissett, which is awesome. And now this has no implications this week. Scott Tolzien is going to start. They've already ruled Luck out for the first week and possibly the second. So Scott Tolzien will start this week, and my prediction is Jacoby Brissett will start week 2, and Luck will be back by week 3.
Tolzien is awful.
He is a perfect backup quarterback on a good team. If he was the backup quarterback for the Packers, like he used to be, we'd all be happy. And he came in and had a couple great games. But I'm telling you this right now, that offensive line with Ryan Kelly out there, center, who's amazing. Good news real quick about that. They just said a couple hours ago Ryan Kelly's only going to miss 2 weeks instead of, they thought they were going to put him on the PUP. So he's coming back earlier. But that is a terrible offensive line. So it's going to be bad.
Bottom 5 for sure. And then they got old Frank Gore. Poor guy. All right. So, I know you do. I can't say Frank Gore in this podcast without John just erection.
Oh.
Okay, so.
Yeah, I had to stand up.
Exactly. So before we move on to any more news, I kind of just want to take a break to kind of ask you a question. What's the most underrated game that has the most fantasy potential that everybody's kind of forgetting about?
Okay, so I have 2 answers for this question. So as far as like most underrated matchups, like we always look at these huge star-studded offenses, and we just talked about the Colts. So I'm going to focus on the other side of that. The Rams versus the Colts is an absolute gold mine because the Rams, the absolute worst offense in the NFL last year, but not versus the Colts. Oh my goodness. Not only the Colts terrible and the worst defense in the entire NFL, they're also out with their number 1 corner. Vontae Davis is not playing. Sammy Watkins is a must start this week.
Yep.
Jared Goff, I know this is weird, but I do not mind playing him, okay? He is going to ball out. You got to think about the new offense that they put in there. They are going to have an absolute field day. So start every single person that you can. That's fantasy relevant. Again, Jared Goff, that's a stretch. 2 quarterback leaves. He needs to be in your roster. Superflex in your roster. If you're just starting 1 QB, you don't need to start him. Definitely not, but that's okay. But I'm talking every single fantasy person that you have. You got to get that guy in because they are going to destroy the Colts defense. It's going to be bad.
The Colts defense would be on many other teams' practice squads. That's just the truth.
It's bad, man. It's really bad. And the second game is one that you wouldn't think to go with, and that's Seattle versus the Packers. And here's why. You're probably going to disagree with me. I'm going to let you go first. You go first.
Okay. All right. Number one, I think that the Seattle defense is elite, and I think that whoever's on,
I agree. I agree with that.
I think that Jordy is going to be limited significantly. Don't forget about Tremaine Brock in addition to this secondary that's already top to bottom.
Oh, they traded him. They traded him.
Okay, never mind that.
So forget about Tremaine Brock.
Forgetting about Tremaine Brock. But overall, he was just another piece I was going to talk about. But overall, I definitely don't think that you can really put a lot of stock in Packers players in week one. I know they're a super offense, but they're going against a super defense, and I don't love it. And then on the other side of it, I think that the Packers defense is susceptible to the run. And again, that is counterintuitive to the past 2 years. I saw them in preseason. They do not look explosive. They do not look strong up front. So I think the way to score on this defense is to smash it down their throats. I know that Seattle has a weaker O-line, but I actually like their running backs to kind of create for themselves. I think Rawls is clearly the number one for me. I'm a little bit surprised about C.J. Prosise. I think we'll talk about that later. But, yeah, I'm not loving that as a fantasy matchup. Your turn.
Okay, I'm going to put some counterpoints out there, and I want to bet. I want to make a bet on this, okay?
Great.
So here we go. Here is why I think that it's going to be an all-out thing. The worst offensive line in the entire NFL is Seattle. The worst running backs in the NFL, I probably wouldn't go Seattle, but it's terrible. Eddie Lacy is awful. He's the number 2. Thomas Rawls is okay, but here's the deal. They are going to air the ball out. And then on the flip side, I understand Seattle's defense is amazing. But if I had to ask you, out of the 16 regular season games last year, guess which team Aaron Rodgers had the highest passer rating against? And it's not even close. It was against, guess who? Seattle. He threw for 3 touchdowns and 250 yards on 23 attempts. Put up 38 points, not over 38 points.
So now you've added now you have 2 legit, crazy talented pass rushers in Bennett and Sheldon Richardson on the line. I'm just not sure that Aaron Rodgers is getting the ball out as much as he did last time.
Okay, so here's the bet I want to put up there.
I got a bet too, but go ahead.
Shoot. Here's what I am proposing, and you can say no because you're probably scared. I am saying that they will throw together. I'm saying they will average. Let's see here. I'm saying they're going to throw for combined over 500 yards passing in this game.
See, I got it better because I'm talking about in terms of the sample of week one. So here's my bet. My bet is that Rodgers and Russell Wilson in combination with each other will not finish in the top 3 of every other game in combination with those other quarterbacks. Does that make sense? So for instance,
I'm so confused.
Okay, so for instance, I'm saying that we're going to use quarterbacks as the metric for the successfulness of the offense, okay? And you might take the Eagles and the Redskins and add up Wentz and Cousins points together.
I see what you're saying.
Got what I'm saying? I'm saying they're going to fall outside the top 3.
So there's 16 games,
Yep.
unless the other one gets canceled. I would do – man, that's rough because there's some great matchups. I'm saying I would do top 6.
I'll do top 5.
Top 5. Look at that negotiation. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Top 5. And let's go with the bet. How about this?
You weren't ready for that.
Oh, I wasn't ready for that, but I'm ready for that now.
Okay.
I had the wonderful privilege of eating pizza with my family this evening, and it was absolutely wonderful.
Okay.
And in this, I decided to try a little bit too much red pepper. The consequences were great. It got on my hands. I rubbed my eyes later, and it hurt very badly. That's not what I want us to do.
What's this got to do with me?
Because the loser of this bet will have to...
This is a consequence bet?
A full tablespoon...
Full load?
Very good. In the Le'Veon Bell, a full tablespoon of crushed red pepper from your favorite pizza place.
Oh, okay. And then, but we gotta instead, you know how we'll
film it and we'll put it on Twitter.
No. We'll do YouTube Live.
We'll do it full. Yeah, we'll do a YouTube Live. We'll put it on both our Twitters, and you can turn in and watch the wonderful red pepper.
Done.
Okay, full tablespoon, not teaspoon, right?
Full load.
I hate this bet already. I hate this bet.
I'm ready for the full load. Okay, moving on. Tyrod Taylor clears concussion protocol. Is he gonna be ready for week 1?
He is now. Just came out again a couple hours ago, man. We waited appropriately to start this podcast, and so they didn't think he was going to be ready, and they thought they were going to go with freaking brand new rookie quarterback Peterson, and luckily for them, Tyrod Taylor cleared. But the sad thing was T.J. Yates, who was their number 2 quarterback, he was still in concussion protocol. As soon as Tyrod got cleared, they put T.J. Yates on IR, so he's done.
Quick note: if you are in a Fantasy Kings where you can have 2 quarterbacks, and there's a few of them actually, Tyrod Taylor and Jared Goff. All right, this one baffles me. All right, Eddie Lacy, number 2 on the depth chart, and it's not because he's number 2 and not number 1. It's what happened to CJ Prosise? I don't think I saw a running back last year who I thought to myself this guy's on the up, and I don't think he's reached his ceiling yet. I'm baffled.
He's super talented, but they have come out and said we're really worried about him staying healthy. He just got hurt 2 weeks ago and is almost back to 100%. He's going to play. He's a little dinged up with his ankle. But here's the issue. They are so concerned that guy, his career won't last. So they have come out and said we have our early down guys, and he's going to come in on third down. So I think it's going to be very similar to what happens in Washington with their running back situations, where Rob Kelly will never be on the field in third down. Speaking of which, Chris Thompson, the third down guy out in Washington, just got a 2-year extension. Congratulations. They are super invested in that guy. You've got to put him up there with the Theo Riddick, with Duke Johnson and all those guys. You're talking possibly 70 catches for this guy this year in PPR leagues. Anyway, back to Eddie Lacy. Eddie Lacy is going to lose this job, and it's not even a good job to win. Again, worst O-line in the entire NFL, and they're in a 3-way timeshare now. So there is zero possibility that Lacy can become an every down workhorse back, which means I don't want him. The upside of this guy is so low. So low. I have him ranked number 44 this week.
Yeah, I think he's going to be mad at himself for losing all that weight, I
don't think it was a lot. Well, it was a lot of weight, but...
Yeah, he had to turn down lots of ice cream and burgers. It's not worth it.
What do you call it? China food? When he moved there? What do you think of Seattle? Or what do you think of Seattle? Oh, man, it's great. They got a lot of China food.
Yeah. He gets a pass. He shouldn't get a pass, but he got one.
Hey, man.
This next one cracks me up. Joe Williams is put on the IR for the year. When I saw that, I was just I just did a metaphorical wink and nod to San Fran, yeah, he's injured. Mm-hmm.
He played the entire game. He played the entire game.
I'm just saying that his injury, they did not want to release this guy. I think they believe in him. I think they know they needed another year with him. What do you think?
And it's smart. It goes both ways. He did hurt his ankle. So he did go in and have an MRI, but he finished the game. And so let's say you're Joe Williams, and they gave him the option, is my guess. We can release you. We can just cut you and waive you. You might get picked up, but your ankle's kind of bummed out. You might not get picked up, so on and so forth. And so it's good for him. And then they also picked up, what's his name? That Tampa Bay.
McNichols.
Yeah, so they signed McNichols to the practice squad as well. So they've got 3 bright rookies with Matthew Breida, who's now the number 2 in San Fran. So
this next piece of news is interesting. It definitely gets you reminded that sometimes the NFL Bleacher Report, ESPN hype train can be misleading because not everybody knows what's going on in these camps. And Jonathan Williams was cut by the Bills.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where you're going with that. I was trying to figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, no, but if again, just before he was released, I'm talking about the day before. I was watching a show on NFL Network. They were like, watch out for this guy. He's going to steal carries from McCoy.
He played so great in the preseason. He had over 5 yards per carry as an average throughout the entire preseason. And he's young. And this was one of the most surprising cuts. Now, here's what's interesting. There was a bidding war for him after he got cut. Now, whenever I say bidding war, it was for a practice squad position, so nobody wanted him on their active roster. But he got paid over $50,000 to go to Denver, and so they signed him there. Now, you only have to pay them $10,000. So they outbid somebody, and this is a great spot for him to go to, Denver, because if C.J. Anderson gets hurt, I guarantee you this guy's going to be activated.
Yep.
And he will be in competition for carries early if C.J. Anderson gets injured.
Did Jeremy Langford get picked up by anybody? Because I know he got cut.
Jeremy Langford, no, he got put. Actually, I'm not sure. I don't want to say.
Sure. Okay. You know what? His cut was not from out of nowhere. I think the very best preseason performance by anybody was Cohen.
Dude, Tariq Cohen, that dude, he looks good. He looks really, really good. So he's the guy there now. Because not only Kadeem Carey's on IR, they cut Langford. I mean, yeah, it's going to be awesome.
And two pieces of news. One I want you to address more so because we didn't even put it on here. But John Ross, I mean, his knee is hurt now, and he was one of your least favorite picks in the draft. But we also haven't talked about Corey Davis. But I want you to touch on both those guys.
Okay, John Ross. First off, I like the guy. His personality is awesome. His talent is undeniable. He cannot play football physically. He has had 3 surgeries. He got hurt running the 40.
Gotcha.
It's running in shirt and shorts. So, that's a big deal. He's already had a hamstring injury in practice. Now he's got a knee injury. His shoulder kept him out of a couple practices. This guy is going to live on the IR, okay? He's already out for at least 3. He's out for 2 weeks is what they said. But if you go look at their schedule, in week 2, the Bengals play on Thursday night. So he's already got a short week to recover. So now you're talking, well, week 3 is probably going to be his first time. And it's going to be like this. The guy's not going to play. Now, Corey Davis, the other side, absolutely love, but not in week 1 or 2. This guy is probably one of the greatest buy low candidates. And if you're wanting to trade for him, wait 1 more week. Because the coaching staff has already come out and said we're only going to use him on special packages. He is not going to get in Le'Veon Bell's term, the full load. And so, wait, because the cost is going to go down, and then he's going to make a spectacular catch, and then everybody's going to want him, and everybody's going to it's going to happen.
There's loads everywhere.
Loads everywhere. Oh, my gosh. So awesome. So awesome.
So awesome. It's kind of weird what's going on with the, as you said, Bengals. I call it Bengals. That's just me.
Bengals.
But it's kind of weird what's going on with them. So they take John Ross that high, and then they go and get a guy, if not for his right hook to women, would have been, probably a top 15 pick, I would assume.
Yes, he would have.
And he is buried on the depth chart to start the season. What is up with that?
Marvin Lewis hates rookies. He doesn't like to rely on them, and he really believes in this redshirt year. And we have seen this happen several times. Do you remember Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, and how terrible he was?
Yeah.
But it didn't matter. So they had Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis, and they had Giovanni Bernard, who was putting up Rookie of the Year numbers, but they wouldn't let him play. They just kept feeding the ball to the vet, and that's what they're going to do here. They just released their depth chart, and Joe Mixon is 3rd on the depth chart. 3rd.
And yet LaDainian Tomlinson's come out and said, it's undeniable. He'll be 1,000 yards. I'm interested to see. I actually think he has the talent, if something were to happen to one of those guys, to easily obtain 1,000 yards, even on not half a season, but, 10 games.
Let's say he averages 5 yards per rush.
Okay.
I mean, how many rushes is he going to have to get to 1,000 yards? He's got to have 200. There's no way he's getting that. So I think 1,000 total yards for this season, total yards, receiving yards, and rushing yards is a possibility. But I'm looking at he might only get 120 carries, and that's 600 yards rushing. He's not getting goal line carries. There's not going to be any goal line work. That's all going to Jeremy Hill. So you're talking maybe 600 yards receiving, maybe 600 yards rushing, 200 yards receiving with 4 touchdowns? That's not worth it.
And just on a side note, outside of fantasy, that's what's wrong with this organization, though. I mean, again, outside of drafting a guy who's just got an incredible uppercut to women's faces and all that stuff, but This guy, again, he's not really the kind of character that you want in the locker room. But here's the deal. You drafted him. He has the talent. Everybody can see that. Why are you not selling high on Jeremy Hill or on Gio?
Yeah.
And getting some draft capital or some player acquisition. Doesn't make sense.
It's one of the worst run front offices and always has been. And that's not going to change.
If only they had me.
That's the answer.
Shout out to you guys if you're hiring. Jeremy Curley cut by the Niners, I believe, and then picked right back up by the Jets. What's the deal?
He's going to be the number one wide receiver for the Jets. It's just going to happen. He's played for Chan Gailey before, and they have nobody else but Rory Anderson. Like, this is going to happen. So, he's not going to be ready week 1. He probably won't even suit up. But I'm telling you right now, like, he is going to be the leader. Now, that's not saying much for the Jets. Definitely terrible, terrible offense. But so it's going to be fantasy relevant. He's definitely worth a stash. Somebody gets injured or something bad happens, he's the guy that you want to replace him with, especially if it's a receiver.
Gotcha. Next up, we have the sneaky start of the week for each position. I would like to just call it the Bill Cosby Award, but we can call it whatever we want to.
Okay, and so speaking of this, if you have not already followed Charles on Twitter, you can get much more of these ridiculous statements on a consistent basis.
Now, or marry me, and then you have to deal with me every day. Go ahead.
Don't marry him. Don't marry him. Don't do that. It's bad.
Poor wife.
Bethany's amazing. God bless her. But the idea is this. Go follow Charles on Twitter, host Chuck B. He has recently skyrocketed in Twitter fame and is very
unbelievable
famous now. So not just family members, and it is way to go, man. And I must say, dude, you crack me up whenever you send stuff out.
I try to just be different, and I guess that's all you can expect. But I went from the bottom, and now I'm here. So
there you go. That sounds. You should write a song or something like that. It sounds inspiring.
It's Canadian. Alrighty, so sneaky start of the week for each position. Give it a go.
Okay, so right off the bat, let's go QB. I love Carson Palmer week 1 versus Detroit. He is going super, super late. And whenever I say I love these guys, these are guys that you would not expect to start. I have him as my QB 15. Okay, so I'm not saying he's going to go out there and like destroy everybody or anything like that. But if your quarterback that you spent high draft capital on is not ready week 1, let's say Phillip Rivers with a tough matchup, Matt Stafford, Dak Prescott, all those 3 guys, I would start Carson Palmer over. Plus, on top of that, Carson Palmer's super freaking old, and he wears down throughout the season, but he starts very well. The last 3 years in a row, his season opener, he has passed for over 300 yards and 2 touchdowns. So just keep that in mind. Like, the guy's going to go out there and perform.
Anybody else outside of the quarterback? You got somebody for running back?
Oh, I got one for each position.
Let's do this.
Running back, I got Rex Burkhead versus Kansas City defense, and he's playing Thursday night. So if you have a whole bunch of Bucs and a whole bunch of Dolphins, go grab this guy. Everybody wants to focus on Gillislee. Gillislee is not going to get the majority of carries there. Gillislee was hurt and missed 2 full weeks during the preseason, and whenever he came in during the 3rd preseason game, he didn't get to play until the second half. I'm telling you right now, Gillislee is going to be the guy, and I absolutely hate relying on Patriots running backs. But
that's just a recipe for disaster for over the season. The only thing I'll say to that, and I agree with you, he's a guy who I'm very intrigued by. I think that Belichick's just going to go with who has the hot hand. If Burkhead gets in there and he runs into somebody's back a few times and falls down, you may never see him again. But if the guy comes in hot, that could be a streak for weeks and crazy fantasy value.
And that's what this is about. These are not guys that you want to go and make crazy trades for. These are guys that you can get for almost free that are owned in less than 50% of leagues, that if you're in a tough situation or your matchups are bad, it's okay to rely on these guys. Rex Burkhead's going to turn some points. I promise you this week.
Wide receiver?
Oh, my boy Ted Ginn Jr.
Yes, absolutely.
Because do you know what Ted Ginn Jr. does not do?
Play well away.
Well, that, and he does not drink and drive like his fellow teammate, Willie Snead. Willie Snead is suspended for the first 3 games, and Ginn is the number 2 receiver for the wonderful Drew Brees. And I'm telling you right now, this guy's going to be in the majority of snaps, and he's going to get a lot of targets. And they're playing against Minnesota. And I understand that Minnesota is great, and they have great corners, but they are going to double team. I promise you they're going to double team Michael Thomas, and Ted Ginn Jr. is going to get some targets.
Tight end. Sorry.
Oh no, you're good. I got Ted Ginn. I'm betting he's going to finish in the top 24 wide receiver this week. So go grab that guy. And
I could see him going as high as top 10. To be honest with you,
it just takes one play for him, right?
Right.
He only needs 3 catches. That's it. 3 catches for 90 yards and a touchdown, and so he's going to be golden there. Now tight end. This one I had to dig deep for, and I did a lot of research, probably way too much. Jason Witten versus the Giants. Now, the Cowboys, and I've said this, the Cowboys are terrible against the Giants, but not Jason Witten. Des Bryant, Dak Prescott, Zeke Elliott, all their worst games of the year against the Giants, not Jason Witten. And in his 2 games, he had 14 targets, just in his last game, 14 targets, 9 receptions, and 66 yards. But I went back and watched the film. He got close to scoring twice.
Yeah. I'm just baffled by the guy. I can't believe the production that he's had. And then I thought about it for a while. And it's like, if you really look at Jason Witten, he just looks like a big baby, a 6'5" baby. And I just think he's immortal. I just feel like what he's doing at the tight end position shouldn't be possible.
Yeah, the fact that he just signed an extension. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's credit to him.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Okay.
I got a defense that you got to get in there. This one's obvious, is the Buffalo defense versus the Jets. McCown is the quarterback, and he is just terrible. He has not passed the 20-point mark, like 20 points, like scoring point-wise in the game. Just twice in his last 8 starts, and this is awesome. 7 interceptions and sacked 24 times in his last 8 starts. So, like, he's averaging an interception and about 3 sacks a game for his last 8 starts. And he's playing for the worst team he's ever played for. So, and he's played for some bad teams. So,
as the non-analyst in this podcast, I got to throw one out there too, defense-wise. But Atlanta's defense, Mike Glennon has looked awful, and I just don't see it. I don't see it happening. But your defense for sure over Atlanta. But that's another one that is non-typical. All right, how about players to avoid?
Ooh, this one hurts, man. Frank Gore.
Yeah.
Don't start Frank Gore. I love Frank Gore, and I think he's going to be great this year. Well, when I say great, he'll be consistent. But do not start him against the Rams. This Rams defense is going to be, even if Aaron Donald doesn't play, it doesn't matter. Wade Phillips is the defensive coordinator there. And with Scott Tolzien at quarterback, you can load everybody in the box, and it's what they're going to do. They're going to blitz, and they're going to storm the box. So don't start Frank Gore. Also, Des Bryant, who I just talked about again. In 2 games combined, 2 catches for 18 yards versus the Giants. He cannot play against that defense. Just not going to happen.
They're not afraid of him, and nor should they be, because they have the safeties to cover him over the top, and they have some of the best man corners in the game. He's just not – I mean, again, he's a great strategic piece that you have to pay attention to, and that will open up the run a bit, but I'm with you. He's not a guy I want any piece of this week.
And I love Des Bryant on the season. I just don't want him this week. Now, if you drafted him, you got to start him because you got him in the second round. If you got him in the first round, you're done. But if you got him in the second round in all likelihood, and you got to start him. I mean, he's a flex play, but just don't expect much. Don't expect much. And at quarterback, Phillip Rivers. Versus Denver, he has not been good. His last 4 games, his averages, 218 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, and 4 sacks per game. So, I mean, those are just not even quarterback 3 numbers. It is quarterback 3 because only 36 play. But, do not start Phillip Rivers this week. He has never played good against Denver.
Who you got at run back?
Frank Gore is who I got. But
sorry. Yeah.
Shoot, I can go all day, man.
Well, tight end.
Tight end, See, tight ends are pretty solid this week, but here's who I don't want to go with, and that I don't think this is going to be weird, but that's okay. I do not like Jordan Reed this week. I don't know why. I just really feel like this guy is not going to have the game that we think that he is going to have. Now, they're playing your boy Philadelphia, but I just really don't think that they're going to be targeting the middle of the field because Philly, your weakness is corners. I know you love your boy Darby, but I really think that this is going to be either Crowder's game or it's going to be Terrell Pryor's. I think that that entire defense is going to key on Jordan Reed. Now, you got to start him. I'm not saying don't start him.
The reason you feel this way is because there's one team and one team alone who limited tight ends to the least amount of fantasy points in the whole NFL.
Was that you guys? I didn't know that.
Yes. And, I mean, it has to do with that we're the top 3, 4 safety tandem, and Jenkins could play corner if he wanted to. So they throw him down the box, and he is a beast, but so is Jordan Reed. I just think that he'll probably get concussed, so I agree with you. I'm not really trusting him all the way.
Not this.
All right. Is that it for the sneakiness?
That's all the sneakiness that I can sneak, so I'm done with sneakiness.
No more sneaky, man. Get it out of your system. All right, so to end our podcast, I just think we need to kind of go. We had a lot of preamble. We're finally here. We're in the mix. Let's just review our bets real quick. We know
got
that
a bunch of them.
Yeah, so let's just do that, and I'm just going to let you take over to say who's in the lead in the certain bets.
All right, so well, I got to add in the bet that we just made, right?
Sure.
So,
yeah.
The Rodgers and Russells, but let's go back to the first bet we made, and it is a doozy.
Yeah,
it hurts. It's so great. Charles Barr, the gentleman that is speaking on the other side of this podcast, came out and said the Jaguars will finish second in their division, and the bet was for a bottle of scotch. So, Charles, who, in your analysis, in your expert opinion, who is the person that is winning this bet as of now?
I'm just going to say Mexico's going to pay for that wall, and we both know that.
That's right.
Okay?
You're not feeling great about that one, are you?
Listen, dude, I'm sticking to my guns. Mexico's going to pay for that wall, and the Jags are going to finish second. Blake Bortles, he's going to, I don't know, man, he's going to build that wall himself. Okay,
all right.
Let's just move on.
Next bet, this one you'll feel better about.
Okay.
Matt Ryan will have more points than Andrew Luck at the end of the year in fantasy.
Yes.
And you took Matt Ryan. I took Andrew Luck. Definitely not looking good with a 2-game lead.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes. But right now, you're definitely in the lead for that one.
Whew. Okay.
Okay. Yes. How about this one? And that bet was for steaks or pizza. I get Giordano's pizza, and you get Omaha steaks sent your way for the winner of that one.
Medium rare, please.
Okay. Oh, I like it. Respect. Let's see. I think you have to cook it yourself, though. Next one. You said that Mike Williams will have more points than Zay Jones.
Ooh.
How do you feel about this? Because Mike Williams is coming back. Now, he has a back injury. I'm not sold that he's over that, but what do you think?
Well, what I think is that the bet was clearly in your favor before some surprise news that he's back. He's back. So I think the fact that he's going to be playing in Week 1 definitely gives me a bit of momentum, but just seeing
he's
Zay
not
Jones,
played in Week 1, by the way. He is not playing in Week 1.
In his heart, he's playing in Week 1. Mentally, he's playing in Week 1. You knew what I was saying. But then seeing Zay Jones play in the preseason, I had to be like, that's a number. He's clearly a number 2. He's bordering on a number 1 receiver. He looks good.
He's gonna kill it, dude. He's gonna kill it.
Yeah, he looked good. So.
And we bet you have to share your most embarrassing moment that is PG-13 for the loser.
I got so many.
I know. Zero pride over here, so let's do that one. Okay, Here we go. Next one. Second string tight end to score the most points. I took Hunter Henry, and you took Dwayne Allen. And the loser has to break down. Go ahead.
Oh, did I take? I thought it was the reverse.
No,
okay,
definitely
you're right.
not. I have notes here.
You sure?
I wrote it in my diary, and I specifically remember you saying this.
Okay.
The loser has to watch an entire episode of The Bachelorette and break down, like you are breaking down film, and give us your synopsis.
That's fine. I gave it up a long time ago. I'll go back to it.
I bet you still watch that.
No, I don't. I go down to the basement whenever it's a protest. She used to sucker me into that stuff. No more.
Right, here we go. We got two more. The Chiefs will 8-8. You said that the Chiefs will be under 8-8, and I said they will be over. And the loser gets their Twitter profile pic and header changed for a week by the winner, which is now turning into a big deal for you because you're kind of Twitter famous.
Yeah, none of this is sounding good, but go ahead.
I'm feeling really good about all of these bets so far, except for one, the Luck and Ryan one. Next one. You decided to double down on Mike Williams, and you said if Mike Williams plays in over 6 games, you shall be referred to as the Lord of Winterfell or the King of the North.
King of the North.
And I will be the fantasy father if he plays in less than 6 games.
Okay, that's not so bad in terms of repercussions, and I actually don't feel bad about that. I think we got 6 games.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, you already thought he was playing in week 1, so you missed one.
Again, mentally, spiritually, he's there for his team.
Ecumenically.
That's right.
Okay, and then the bet we made today, Rodgers and Russell Wilson will not finish in the top 5 in fantasy combined points. So
I'm going to say that I said top 3, but you strong-armed me into top 5. But, I mean, we'll go with top 5. I'm just saying.
I don't like this bet. I think I'm going to lose this bet. So that's okay.
Crushed peppers.
And these are, full tablespoon of red pepper. So that's what we're doing there.
Full load. By the way, please name this episode Full Load for me.
I'll put it in there, man. We'll see. We can see if we can get it trending on Twitter. # Full Load.
Full Load, please.
And
right.
those are all our bets. So that's where we're at. And the good news is we will have a video to put up of one of us losing this bet next week. And we will know after Monday. So look for Tuesday, Wednesday next week. We're going to be putting this video out there. And believe you me, if I win this bet, I will publicize the hell out of it. If I lose this bet, the podcast may be canceled.
Right. We'll see.
No, Lannister always pays his debts.
Well, man, I don't know how I feel after hearing all that stuff, but I guess I'll see you guys next week. We'll see what happens.
Go big or go home, right?
That's right. Well, don't forget to check us out on Twitter because, again, we need to feed the tweets. So, JL_Chapman.
Yes, also, JL_CHAPMAN. Also, I had my big fantasy article put out by Eat Sleep Fantasy Football, fantasy.com. And so it's just go check that out under articles, eatsleepfantasy.com. There's some good stuff on there, so go check that out. Let me know what you think. If you prefer the written articles, that's there. And Charles, what's your Twitter?
Host Chuck B.
Host Chuck B.
All right, peace.